How you doing, everybody? Today, we're traveling back to the White House. It's been a while since we spent some quality time there. I think the last time that we did that was when those 5 African presidents visited Donald Trump at the White House and engaged in what I call the adoration of Trump. This is where visiting foreign leaders and even local leaders often have to tick the box of praising Donald Trump to the high heavens. Today, President Donald J. Trump has something big to announce. That's why we're here today at the White House.
Thank you very much, everybody. So this is a big day, a beautiful day, potentially one of the great days ever in civilization.
One of the greatest days in the history of civilization. I can't wait to hear what it could be. But unless it touches on Africa, we will not respond. Will not respond.
To ensure the success of this effort, my plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, the Board of Peace, we call it, the Board of Peace, sort of a beautiful name, the Board of Peace, which will be headed, not at my request, believe me, I'm very busy, but we have to make sure this works. The leaders of the Arab world and Israel and everybody involved asked me to do this, so it would be headed by a gentleman known as President Donald J. Trump of the United States.
There it is. There is the big announcement that makes today the greatest day in the history of civilization. Donald Trump is set to become the new president of Gaza. You have heard it for yourselves. The peace board that Trump just mentioned will be the final authority in Gaza. So Trump leading it is similar to him being the president in Gaza. The board will oversee a non-political Palestinian committee of experts that will manage the daily public services and local councils in Gaza. More than 100 years ago, the British used a similar playbook in Africa. It's called Indirect rule. British indirect rule meant governing countries through existing local chiefs, existing kings, existing rulers, instead of replacing them with British officials. In Uganda, which was a British protectorate, the British ruled indirectly through agreements with local kingdoms like the Buganda Kingdom. These initially gave local people the illusion of being independent, when in fact, they were not. Ladies and gentlemen, if Hamas accepts Trump's peace plan, you are going to witness modern-day colonialism through indirect rule. America, and to a smaller extent Israel, will be the real authority, whereas the Palestinian Committee of Experts will only have delegated authority. As Thomas Sankara once said, imperialism is a horrible student. It never learns from its failures. British imperialism failed, yet America wants to follow in those very footsteps. Keep that at the back of your mind as we delve deeper into the seemingly innocent nuts and bolts of Trump's peace plan. One more thing. This peace plan touches on Africa. I will explain later.
If accepted by Hamas, this proposal calls for the release of all remaining hostages immediately, but in no case more than 72 hours.
These hostages should indeed be released. On that one, we're on the same page. As a matter of principle, civilians of any race, any religion, any political affiliation should never ever be used as bargaining chips during times of war. That's why it's inexcusable that the 82 Chibok girls are still missing. Boko Haram captured them in Nigeria in 2014. 1 decade later, these 82 are still missing. To Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, do you have any update for us on this particular matter? Now, let's go back to Trump and then to Netanyahu. And thereafter, I will conclude and explain what this has to do with Africa.
Under the plan, Arab and Muslim countries have committed, and in writing in many cases, but I actually would take their word for it. The people I mentioned, I'd take their word for it, to demilitarize Gaza, and that's quickly. Decommission the military capabilities of Hamas and all other terror organizations. Do that immediately. And we're relying on the countries that I named and others to deal with Hamas. And I'm hearing that Hamas wants to get this done too, and that's a good thing. And destroy all terror infrastructure, including the tunnels, weapons, production facilities. They have a lot of production facilities that we're destroying. They'll also help train local police forces in the areas that we're discussing right now, in particular in and around Gaza, working with the new transitional authority in Gaza. All parties will agree on a timeline for Israeli forces to withdraw in phases. They'll be withdrawing in phases. No more shooting, hopefully, as progress is made toward achieving these goals. Arab and Muslim nations need to be allowed the chance to fulfill these commitments of dealing with Hamas.
This seems to me like a wish list. A noble one, but a wish list nonetheless. If wishes were horses, beggars would ride. There's nothing wrong in having a wish list for peace, as long as you know that a wish list alone cannot deliver peace. In this case, Trump will have to explain how exactly Arab countries are supposed to deal with Hamas. In addition, you can demilitarize in terms of hardware, but what about militancy? If people feel oppressed, their militancy will always become stronger. It never goes away. Let's now listen to what Netanyahu had to say. Is he really on board? Is he really reading from the same script with Donald Trump? Or is this simply another act in his theatrics? And what does this have to do with Africa? Just hang on for a few minutes. Over to you, Bibi.
Mr. President, first I want to thank you for graciously hosting me once again in the White House. And second, I want to thank you for your friendship and for your leadership. From Jerusalem to Tehran, from the Golan Heights to Gaza, you've proven time and again what I've said many times. You are the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House.
Netanyahu stopped short of asking everyone to bow down in worship. As I said earlier, I call this the adoration of Trump. And as I said, anyone visiting the White House seeking favors from Trump must tick that box. The adoration of Trump. If you like Trump, let me respectfully remind you what Blaise Pascal, the French mathematician, once said, that there is God-shaped vacuum in everyone that only God can fill. Or as my father likes to say, thirst for water can never ever be quenched by porridge. Ponder about these two quotes in relation to Trump's insatiable need for adoration. Back to Netanyahu. Just a quick one before I go on. Last year, I wrote a book about historic African leaders like Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, Julius Nyerere, and of course, Ibrahim Traore. There are nearly 100 of them in that book. Many of you have already bought the book, and I'm very grateful for that. If you haven't bought it, please head on to Amazon and purchase your copy. Both physical and digital copies are available. Thanks a lot.
I believe that today we're taking a critical step towards both ending the war in Gaza and setting the stage for dramatically advancing peace in the Middle East, and I think beyond the Middle East, in very important Muslim countries. I support your plan to end the war in Gaza, which achieves our war aims. It will bring back to Israel all our hostages, dismantle Hamas's military capabilities, end its political rule, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. We would not have achieved this turning point without the courage and sacrifice of our incredibly brave soldiers. They fight like lions to defend the people of Israel, and they serve on the front line in the war between civilization and barbarism.
Looks like Bibi isn't bored. If you're Palestinian and you're watching this, you must already be asking yourself, what is Israel going to give up for the sake of peace? Is Israel also going to take responsibility? After all, it takes two to create a conflict. And if you are African, I will understand if you're still asking yourself what this has to do with Africa. In less than 5 minutes, after Netanyahu is done, I will answer that question in detail in my conclusion.
Your plan is consistent with the 5 principles my government set for the end of the war and the day after Hamas. Everybody asks, what is your plan for the day after Hamas? Here's our plan. Passed it in the cabinet. All our hostages, both those who are alive and those who died, all of them will return home immediately. Hamas will be disarmed. Gaza will be demilitarized. Israel will retain security responsibility, including a security perimeter for the foreseeable future. And lastly, Gaza will have a peaceful civilian administration that is run neither by Hamas nor by the Palestinian Authority. If Hamas agrees to your plan, Mr. President, the first step will be a modest withdrawal, followed by the release of all our hostages within 72 hours. The next step will be the establishment of an international body charged with fully disarming Hamas and demilitarizing Gaza. I appreciate your willingness to lead the body, Mr. President. I really appreciate it because you have a lot of things to do, and this is important. And it reflects the confidence that this will give everyone, that things will be followed up on all the commitments made. The fact that you're taking this on, I think, helps a lot to make sure that everything flows in the direction that we want. Now, if this international body succeeds, we will have permanently ended the war. Israel will conduct further withdrawals linked to the extent of disarmament and demilitarization, but will remain in the security perimeter for the foreseeable future. I think we should understand that we're giving everybody a chance to have this done peacefully, something that will achieve all our war objectives without any further bloodshed.
Israel and America have already decided who should govern Gaza. Trump. Everyone else will simply follow his directives. That's the textbook description of colonialism. And that's no way to secure and sustain peace. It is no way to do so. Tell me, what other misgivings do you have about this peace plan? after listening to both Netanyahu and Trump. Do you think that it is a good start? Or do you think that it is doomed to fail from the start? Now, for the big question. What does all this have to do with Africa? Just as America and Israel are imposing a peace plan on Palestinians, the West and lately China are imposing an economic plan on Africa. The global economic order and the global political order are both rigged against Africa. Let's break it down. The Gaza plan wasn't written by Gaza. It wasn't debated in Ramallah. It was dictated and then offered as peace. In the same way, Africa's economic life is governed not from Nairobi or Lagos, but from Washington, D.C. and Brussels through the IMF and World Bank. Remember structural adjustment in the 1980s? Schools closed. Farmers lost subsidies. Those policies were not written in African parliaments. They were penned in Washington, signed in African capitals, and enforced on African streets. Fast forward to today. Whether it's Zambia's debt restructuring or Ghana's new austerity packages, the same pattern holds. Local leaders negotiate, yes. But the authorship, the blueprint, is foreign. This is indirect governance. Just like Gaza was handed a plan that they never drafted, Africa is handed reform packages shaped by non-Africans. Africa is effectively governed by boards we do not elect, through directors we do not appoint, with plans we do not write. That is not partnership. It is indirect rule, neocolonialism. Trump's Gaza plan shows us a mirror. The world still writes plans for others and forces them down their throats. For us in Africa, we must say with one resounding voice, never again. Never again. My name is DJ Bokali, and Africa is my superpower. We are going to continue engaging all these global leaders, all these African leaders, because we, the people of Africa, are the ones vested with sovereign power to chart the destiny of Africa. And this time round, we are rising to the occasion and will keep doing that. See you again soon. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? If you're not yet a member of this channel, what are you waiting for? Welcome home. Keep awakening, and let's transform Africa together.